All right, so let's begin our fireside chat. I know it's going to be interesting. We are a serial entrepreneur. So before I begin my fireside chat with Souvik, let me introduce what Infra Market does exactly. So it doesn't deliver food to your house or help you make a payment online or rewards or book a cab for you. So Infra.market is tie-ups with contract manufacturers. I'm correct?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a platform where a lot of the manufacturers of construction material products, a lot of solution providers in construction material products can actually improve the way they do business, which eventually leads to better efficiency for construction projects getting built out, and actually at an end point ensures that the cost of projects go down in construction and infra projects. So that's what we're sort of trying to build.
So technology is transforming our modern economy in a way through improved efficiency and new business models. So how all sectors, including the infrastructure sector, can harness technology to be more responsive to the needs of the sector and the community as well.
I think construction and infra would be one of the few sectors globally which sort of hasn't been able to be, technologically efficient. Where technology, while it has been used to enhance the overall efficiency of projects for some areas, but it doesn't have a very wide use across the entire ecosystem. And so there's always this sort of negative connotation to whether it will actually get built out in India. Because globally it's something that hasn't been done. Getting that to get implemented in India obviously has its own hassles, its own challenges. But I look at infrastructure and construction and the evolving role of technology in that. In India, may be the pioneer that actually adopts it first. Because I look at it very similar to what has happened in the banking and finance industry. India was the first sector, one of the first countries to build out the basic infrastructure where banking and finance started adopting technology. And today you have one of the best platforms where you have built, as UPI is a global platform today. It's getting exported to other countries. And you have today a lot of fintechs and banks transacting on it. And India is a pioneer in that. I think that is very soon to happen in infrastructure and construction. If you look at, for example, the logistics policy that came out, the warehousing policy that came out, you can see that eventual ground-up infrastructure getting built, on top of which a lot of startups who are building technology solutions for the construction industry will start building solutions and start implementing solutions. So you had the government take out the logistics policy, where they're and warehousing policy, where they're actually streamlining or implementing solutions across warehousing across the country. All these things are eventually going to lead to better solutions for infrastructure sector. And what are we really hoping for? We are really hoping for that implementation of technology at a project level will help a developer save costs at the project. That's the end goal.
How the infrastructure developer will save the cost? What kind of technology you feel that right now are more important to imbibe in such infrastructure sector project? For example, if I am right now sitting here, but if I want to check some of the, is there any nut and bolt possibility of मुझे कुछ वहाँ पे गड़बड़ लग रही है nut and bolt में, can we do that?
So I think the first thing that is going to impact cost is, one of the largest areas of cost is logistic and supply chain cost. First, think of when you're building an infrastructure project in India, you don't today have efficient ways to procure material, procure logistics, and you're paying a very high price for it. Today, India spends, I think the Honorable Minister mentioned that India spends 15 to 16% on construction compared to a global standard of 8 to 12%, right? So you're talking of 4% of infrastructure project cost that's going there. What you need to build for that is predictability. You need to know that when you will require a material, you need to know and the manufacturer needs to know when he needs to deliver a product to you. If that technology is getting built today in every sector of the economy. It's not only infra. Great logistics solutions are getting built out. Today we have the ability to predict on a real-time basis the availability of logistics at every district level or every city level for an infrastructure project. Once you have built that basic infrastructure out, I think the ability for developers to sit in a remote location in India and know exactly when they will get their material and pay the efficient price for that material is going to be one of the first technology solutions that are going to get implemented across the country. And that's happening. You have logistics startups which have sort of built out very viable solutions to actually implement this across the sector.
But there are multiple, in fact, as an infrastructure observer, I see there are multiple gaps. Even in the logistics supply chain, construction material supply chain. So what role technology can bring?
Predictive technology, for example, say you're a small-time manufacturer. Let's also understand if India wants to become a manufacturing hub and you really need solution for the infrastructure, you cannot be dependent on a few large manufacturers to make India the manufacturing hub of this world. You're dependent on small-scale manufacturers working in every nook and corner of this country to support infrastructure projects. And we need to equip them. But think of a small, crusher owner or a small concrete manufacturer and working in a part of India. He does not have predictability how much I need to deliver. Or when my vehicle will be free, what is my lead time, what is my cost coming to, do they have efficient solutions? Today we are building our transport solutions for crushers across India, where they don't need to spend time on imagining how many trips they need to do. They don't need to spend time understanding how much production they're going to have to do. We give them that predictability. We have developed software solutions for concrete plant owners. We work with almost 100 plus concrete plant owners. We work with 30 plus crushers today across even NCR, where they have predictability on a real-time basis, how much they need to manufacture for tomorrow. They have real-time basis availability of logistics, and that cost that they incur of unpredictability goes away. Eventually, every cost gets passed on to the developer. And once you start saving costs at every level, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's back-end production, whether it's logistics, eventually if the channel saves cost, it's the projects which get cheaper. So we today have enabled that for multiple manufacturers across India.
So how it was difficult for you, infra market, to get to get these construction material and building players on board, explaining the importance of technology in terms of supply chain management?
I don't think it was difficult maybe in the initial year.
Why I'm saying is because construction and infrastructure sector is such sector where they have this preconception method or they have this preconception mind that they don't look, I have experienced, they don't look beyond certain things.
See, I would say that could be a situation for large companies who have a very difficult time changing the things the way they are working. But for a small guy for whom survival is the key, they are realizing that a lot of industries are getting disrupted. A small retailer is getting disrupted today by a B2C e-commerce player. So if they, as a manufacturer, when I know the technology, I see in front of my eyes the technology is disrupting every sector, whether it's a restaurant sector, whether it's if I don't adopt technology, I know I'm eventually not going to be part of this system. I think that change is very much there in the ecosystem. When we work with manufacturers, I think they are very adaptive to that change. We have not found it. Today we work with more than 200 manufacturers across India, where they actually work with us, where we help them make more money out of their manufacturing units.
So, how important is the technology for you, even given that you are in extremely offline heavy industry? How does it compare to B2C e-commerce where apps and technological apps plays a large part in terms of proposition?
I don't think technology is only about apps and unlike the B2C. Technology in construction will also be about new materials being implemented, which are cheaper, which are lighter, which are stronger, which make projects more viable. Technology could be about how a project gets built, the designing part of a project. So I think there are a lot of avenues in technology which are beyond B2C. I don't think anytime you're going to give that, you're not here to give that customer experience is important, but that's not the key, because a B2B customer is very different from a B2C customer. A B2B customer is an informed customer. You can give him a great experience, but if you're not going to save him costs, you're not going to make it commercially more viable, he is not going to make that change.
How was your experience working with these players?
No, our experience is very simple, that you have to give him a value proposition. You have to tell him, you're spending this, and this is the economic benefit that is coming out of adoption of technology. You're not going, and until you do that, and you have to give him an economic benefit which you can sustain for a long period of time. It cannot be a discounted economic benefit. You have to give him an economic benefit which he, for the next decade, can enjoy, and you can provide, irrespective whether it's discounted. I think until you build that with the large customers, they're not going to come to you. But we've seen a lot of large players come to, a lot of the largest construction players do work with us, a lot of the small-scale manufacturers work with us. It's obviously a sector where we need a lot of conviction that we need to build to start to get them to change. But once they change, I think it's a habit-forming thing. Once they change, we've seen very few people actually move out.
So before I wrap up this session, why don't you speak up your journey, tell us about your journey since it's the beginning, because this is kind of a segment where even a startup would do not like to touch upon.
No, I think, see, at the end of the day, sectors.
Why I'm saying construction material building, there are so many things, because in terms of payment structure,
Yeah.
in terms of they getting payment from the government, and then it's been passed on to you. So considering the circle of life, do you think is it a kind of a risky business that you are into?
No, I think yes, it's a very difficult business to operate in. But I also realize, I think everyone in this room knows that the more difficult the business, the opportunities are that much more, right? I think it's the one of the largest formalized sectors of the Indian economy. And one of the sectors which is going to see growth over the next decade. And we can see that coming. So when we started the business, we had no whims and fancies. We realized it's a very tough sector to work in. But we've been able to implement that. We've been able to sort of at least begin our journey where we are making a change, making a difference to the industry. And I think what we are seeing is that a lot of young startups are actually coming up in the sector. We are not the only ones. There are a lot of startups in the construction sector, in the construction material sector, and one can only hope that that change is permanent. Because at the end of the day, the ecosystem needs to change. It's not going to be done by one or two people. Yeah? So it's at the end of the day, it's an ecosystem.
Infra market is a unicorn. What kind of pressure does that bring to the table? What exactly is the business model? How are your customers? How are your what do you say? How do you serve these segments or your customers?
So our customers are obviously a lot of real estate players, a lot of infrastructure customers, and even our suppliers are our customers. At the end of the day, we actually work with a lot of manufacturers, small-scale manufacturers. I think they are the key customers who work with us. Being a unicorn, it doesn't bring pressure beyond performance in the sense that you need to live up to expectations that people have of you from point of service, point of your brand, point of your ability to actually give a quality product to your customer. But apart from that, it doesn't carry any extra responsibility whether you are unicorn or not unicorn. But I think what the pressure does bring to us is that we are one of the few companies in this industry who've been able to reach that landmark. And it's important for us to show the right progression in terms of growth, in terms of what we are building, to actually pave the path for a lot of smaller startups who are actually building with us or seeing us and building something in this construction industry. So I think we are sort of the first startup in the construction industry which has reached this scale. And that actually makes it very easy for someone now who's sort of building something similar or in a similar industry to actually again start up, and sort of follow us or say, I'm going to build something very similar to what Infra Market has done, or I'm going to build something that is going to, be parallel to what Infra Market has done. I think that has its own pressure because you don't want to fail, but at the end of the day, you are at that moment of hope for a lot of companies who are trying to build this industry. And I think we've so far been able to sort of build out and sort of build a unicorn, but I think our ability lies in our fact that we built a unicorn which is today profitable in India. One of the few unicorns which are profitable in India. Right. So we are a very sustainable business. It's not just about being a unicorn. And that sustainability lies in our unit economics. Sustainability lies in the fact that whatever we build ground up. We're not a unicorn merely because of market valuations. We are unicorn because we've actually built something that has a lot of core value in what we have built and actually makes money on every transaction, and we actually end up making money on a year-on-year basis, which very few startups today have done actually in the B2B sector.
Last question would be, any more acquisitions?
We have acquired a couple of companies in a couple of brands in the sector. We look forward to acquiring companies who are building good products, especially in the new material segment. So we want to get into product categories which are very new to India or new globally and bring them to India. So we are looking at a couple of acquisitions where we'll introduce some new materials in India which will actually make it much easier for infrastructure developers to actually develop and build projects and make it more cost efficient and eventually help them make more profitable projects.
All right. Thanks. Thank you so much, Souvik, for such a fireside chat. Actually, it was a fireside chat. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to us.